Hello, everyone. We have gathered for an informative talk by Mansee Bal Bhargava. Water conservation is a critical and pressing global issue that involves the responsible use and preservation on one of our planet's most precious resources, that is water. With the world's population steadily increasing and climate change causing shifts in weather patterns and the availability of freshwater resources, the need for effective water conservation has never been more urgent. Water is essential for all life forms and it plays a pivotal role in sustaining ecosystems, agriculture, industries, and human communities. However, the demand for water is outpacing its sustainable supply in many regions, leading to water scarcity and numerous environmental and social challenges. Mansi Ma'am is an entrepreneur, researcher, educator, speaker, mentor, and a keen political observer. Her engagement is in the built environment that includes architecture design, development, planning, management, and governance of large scale projects. With belief in sustainability livability, she is in practice for nearly 3 decades, a journey in which she has developed her interest in water worries and wisdom besides women matters. She is the founder and director of W4W, foundation and research entrepreneur at Environmental Design Consultants Ahmedabad. She holds the national president position at the Water Resources Council of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, leading a network of professional women leaders from the water sector from across the country. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Nishal. Yeah. So is it my time to now speak?
Yeah, sure, you can go ahead.
Thank you. And thanks, Nishal, for the wonderful introduction you made. And you made my life easy to talk about water because now we need to find out, are we really looking at water in the way Nishal really introduced the whole context of my presentation. So as you can already see on my cover page of the talk today, I am already writing to you warm greetings apart from warm greetings. So my talks have been very, very harsh because my aim has always been to reach your heart. So please bear with the harshness of the talk because the way design, architecture, and planning, I'm going to touch all the three fields, has been dealing with water really gives me nightmares. And that's why I'm writing warm and warm greetings. Okay. So you may check out at more of my work, but Nishal did a very good introduction of me. So thank you so much for that. And thanks IIDA to really invite me and trust me. I was just speaking to the girls here that I am now really trying to grab every opportunity coming my way to talk about water matters. And why is that? Why I'm so much concerned or interested or really going beyond my professional I will say caliber or work to talk about water, because I strongly miss water education in my related fields, which is architecture, planning, urban design, and design, conservation, and all the fields which are related to built environment. So I was hoping to interact with you, but my presentation is going to be more on a question mode. As I mentioned, it's going to be in a harsh mode to reach your heart. So I really want you to introspect and think about your college, whether you are a participant as a student or whether you're a participant as a teacher or practitioner of the built environment. What is it taught? When was it taught? Where was it taught? And I'm meaning about water. Was it taught in the way it should be? Were you appreciating water? Were you concerned enough about the water matters as Nishal was giving the introduction part? I am really sad to share with you that no, especially when we talk about the concerned part of it. And I have a lot of statistics, but I'm going to keep it short and simple for you in this presentation because this is my first time and I do not want my host to throw me out for the future summits. So I'm going to really talk about in that manner that we can really talk about water in every summit, every conference, every meeting, every workshop, every course we do in water. And now I would like to tell you if you have a 4 year course or 5 years course of bachelor's with 50 courses or 40 courses, depending on the number of years, and if you have a 2 years of master's in any of these field related to built environment, have you ever learned about water with 1 or 2 credits course? In my search of last 10 years, when I wish to teach water across the country in my related field, I am not surprised that people are not yet ready to teach 1 or 2 credits of course on water. And when we talk about water in these built environment courses, we do talk about, as she rightly mentioned, our demand is increasing. We do talk about our distribution system. We do talk about water resource. We do talk about its value in terms of what human appropriation can do. We do talk about flood. We do talk about drought, not in architecture, planning, design, and interior design courses. So I have the privilege also to teach at institutions like Terry, TACE, and other IITs. And I feel more, welcomed there to teach about these things than in my own profession. And that is why I'm taking this opportunity to reach out to all of you that please tell your institutions, whether you're a teacher or a student, to teach water, to talk about water. You cannot really use water only for appropriating to make it look beautiful. So water is more than fountains and waterfronts. Water is more than drinking a glass of water. And that's where the issues of hydrology, limnology, biology, zoology, and you will be surprised to know every platform I have gone across in the country in last 3 years, I've given more than 200 lectures on water. Anywhere I have asked about what is ichthyology, ornithology, I have not found a single student to tell what is that, because we are not taught about it. Yes, people do know biodiversity. People can make a sense out of algology, but these basic things about water are not known because our idea of water is very, very simplified, and we are not really still dwelling into the idea of complexity of water, because all these things have to come together. So, if we have to really look at water now, which is becoming a very hot topic, and not unlike 25 years ago when I started working on water and water bodies, and that distinction is also not made, by the way, in our profession, in architecture planning, many of the times. It is a blurred idea, but now the talk is much high, much aggressive, because we are into the state of water crisis, because India is among the most hit water starved country, despite the fact that we have heavy monsoon, despite the fact that we are blessed with water resources like rivers and ponds and streams and wetlands. Despite that fact, we have water crisis, and the crisis is felt at both levels, and that those both levels are sustainability and livability, where livability issue can be experienced from flood, drought, and access to water in terms of inequitable access to water, where rich people enjoy or middle class enjoys much more water than the poor and vulnerable people. Even class and caste are coming into play in that. Then we have also been seeing the sustainability issue in terms of disasters. Nobody can forget the disaster we just had in Himachal and Uttarakhand, and many cities are already flooding in those ways, and we see them in everyday life. We have also many conflicts between the countries, between the states on water. So these are all issues which are related to water, and we happily escape them when we are teaching, learning water in our profession. Much of these water issues are manufactured and manipulated by the people who are educated, who are elites, who are sitting in the policy rooms, because of the inequitable distribution of water to to the entire class and caste of the society. So we are already discriminating in giving water or providing water services to all. So it's basically a matter of accessibility and affordability, and that is decided by educated elites, people like me and you probably. What is an entry point which can be discussed, and I want to leave you with a thought process on this slide, that imagine if corona was a waterborne disease, what would have happened to humanity? Imagine if corona was waterborne disease. Why I'm saying this is because even till date, water epidemics is already a standing pandemic in the world, but it is not declared as a pandemic, despite the fact that world's more than 50% epidemics or diseases or deaths are out of waterborne problems. We still don't declare it as a pandemic because poor people suffer from it more than the middle and rich people. Corona came into limelight because middle and rich people have got affected. That's why it got declared as pandemic. What I'm trying to tell you is that these crises are already there. It's not about then and there. It is now and here. And if we are not talking about water at this point in time, we are really late to address from our profession, because our profession is where humans inhabit, whether it is a room, whether it is a house, whether it is a housing, neighborhood, city, state, country. We are involved in the built environment, and that's where it really matters that we talk about water crisis. That's where it matters that we really talk about water conservation, water management. Are we talking? My concern is that we are not talking enough, and I am saying this with a very very bold underline statement, because when I look at the course curriculum of all the 4 year 5 years bachelor's and 3 years diploma and 2 years of masters, I don't find 1 or 2 credits course on masters. And that's why I'm talking about it as, do we really own the responsibility? Do we consider it as our duty to conserve water? And you look at any design, any project, anything, 99.9% projects do not take into account that we have to conserve water, we have to be mindful about water, we have to be caring about water, we have to learn our clients, our community about water conservation and management, because we ourselves don't know that we have to really convey this to our community and the client. If we want to convey it to the community and the client, we have to be first learned about it. And that's why I'm talking about the very fact that, are we teaching learning water in our schools and colleges? If not, how do we expect ourselves to be practicing it? Of course, it is not going to happen. And I should not be bringing it, but I am bringing my own self, that people consider me as water expert, and I am not a water expert. I am not educated in water. I have struggled across 5 degrees with 3 masters, with PhD and bachelors. All the thesis I have worked on water and water bodies. And this is how I am trying to learn about water, because nobody taught me about water. To the extent that in my master's and undergraduate thesis, my teachers, my friends used to laugh at me that I'm studying water in the way I should not be studying, because that discipline did not permit me. I think from there, in 25 years, things have moved further. At least I can say this with the fact that I'm at least invited to talk about water. So there are many scales at which water can be discussed, and I am aware that this is an interior design and design faculty invitation and platform, but I would still not shy away from talking about it at various scales. But just giving an example of let's say a very interior or small scale water endeavor. Tap. A house. 50 years ago, there used to be only one toilet, one wash basin in the house. When designers came in this country as a discipline, we changed the whole dynamics. We made it very unsustainable way. Now every room has a toilet, every room has everything, and nobody wants to share. So we actually divided the families. I'm just giving a very simple example. We started designing kitchen in a very Western way, where sink is there, and we waste all the water when we wash our utensils and vegetables, which never used to happen 50 years 60 years ago, when people used to wash and cook on the floor, and the water used to just drain away in the soil. 50 60 years ago, we were not using those acidic cleaning agents. So when people used to use water for washing their dishes, washing their vegetables, and washing their clothes, the water used to happily get into the soil, and it was water conservation naturally happening. Now today, what we do, we have a centralized system. We want everything to be drained away through the sink and the WC and the bath areas, and everything gets collected in some river, and the river gets choked with all kinds of things. So today I'm going to really focus on only one aspect of the water, which is water resource, our rivers and lakes. I can go on and on with house, room, neighborhood, regional scale, but I thought within half an hour I can only do justice. Not too much, but still I will try my best to only focus on the water, because we all aspire to look at water in various ways, from drinking water. In fact, in architecture planning and design, we are not even teaching about quality of water which needs to be drink. We learned it in the school that pH value has to be 7 to make it potable. But how to make it 7? Who makes it 7? Where is it done? 99% of the design, architecture, planning students don't even go to those treatment plants. I take them on workshops, on tours, water tours, you know. So when we look at water, when we conceptualize it, we have all these forms, and most of the time we are conceptualizing in our projects in the form of fountains, in the form of swimming pool, in the form of, designing the house or building or water supply system and all within the building. But there are other people who are also working to ensure that the water comes to the house, to the society. There are canals, there are dams, there are waterfronts. There are, in the past there used to be step wells. All these things are different waterscapes, which we call as collective milieu of various forms of visible water, which you can see, which you can design, which you can optimize with your intelligence, which we are not doing, unlike in the past, when in the entire arid region where I belong right now, through Ahmedabad, I can give this example, where step wells and wells used to be major lifelines because rivers and ponds used to get dry. Just giving one little example. But when we look at the visible water, we are still trying to do something, although I'm going to share with you how nasty we have been as designers in dealing with the waterscapes, the visible waterscape, which is the example I'm going to present to you today. But we have not at all touched the invisible water in our education and profession of built environment. And the invisible water comes from all kinds of lifestyles, whether food, whether clothing, whether occupation, whether traveling, everything has water involved. So to give example of the built environment, I want to bring to your notice that built environment, which includes infrastructure, buildings, and all kinds of doing those city building process, consumes nearly half of the water, which fresh water, which our society produces or our water resources produces. And we still do not want to stop making buildings, whereas as a country we are leading in the vacancy rate. We have more buildings than we can occupy, we have more roads than we can use, and still we want to build more because we want to reach a certain GDP and economy, without realizing that we are among the top water stressed or water crisis country in the world. We consume the world's 70% groundwater for agriculture, for building industry, for creating wars or defense. But we are not talking about it because we want to achieve certain trillion economy. At what cost? And I want to remind everybody every time, keep your mind, ticking, thinking if corona was a waterborne disease. No matter how much money you have, no matter how big house you have, how big car you have, you will not be able to escape that. So if we, why I'm showing the built environment industry, as it is consuming half of the water of the country, or for that matter, that holds also for the entire world. But if we focus in India itself, it is a big concern because we are more stressed, because we are consuming more groundwater. All these things are happening through consuming groundwater. 70% of the groundwater goes into agriculture. Among the world, we are 70% consuming groundwater. Within that, the entire groundwater consumed, 70% of it is used in agriculture to produce food. Still, half of the country goes hungry, sleeps at night hungry because we have a serious distribution problem. We are producing unsustainable food to export to others. So we are actually transporting virtual water to outside where our people are sleeping hungry. Our poor people pay 20 times more the price for water per liter than a middle class and upper class people pay for every water. At the same time, we have 24/7 water supply, and poor people barely get water for half an hour, 1 hour a week, and they pay 20 times more. So I'm telling these things because these are not directly visible through the naked eye. Forget about teaching. We are not even teaching the visible water. I don't know when it is going to be taught about the invisible water, but I have the privilege to teach it in other institutes. And that's why I'm hammering in my own fraternity that please start teaching water. Because what is happening as a child when we grow up, and now I'm bringing my example of water resource as I mentioned, that I'm going to talk about only one aspect of water and not get into every detail of it at every scale. And I'm going to talk about lakes and rivers. And when we imagine lakes and rivers, there are two major imaginations we have: a natural pristine landscape and waterscape where you have birds, where you have beautiful mountains, where you have fishes, where you have grasslands and all those things. We get inspiration from them. When we conceptualize water bodies, we start getting inspiration from places like Varanasi, Nashik, Ajmer, and many other beautiful places which have been built in the last many years of traditional. Even Ahmedabad, for that matter, we have beautiful stepwells, Sarkhej, and all those examples are there. So what we are doing in the inception stage of water bodies development, we are actually taking examples of the built part of the water. So we have to remember that Varanasi is not entirely Ghat. It's only just small portion of Varanasi which has Ghat, and rest of the thing is, nature. But we take only that small portion as inspiration, and we make the project inception that this is going to be replicated all through. We implement it, and then we have impacts which we then call it. So when every city has flood, we call it nature's a disaster. We don't call it that the flood is a result of planning and design and architecture result. We don't talk about it because we are unable to relate that, but that is the fact that it is a result of that. So when we are designing and implementing, we give this image to our client and community. Why so? When we are getting inspiration from these kind of the images, why are we selling these things to them? This is where education becomes extremely important. Unfortunately, in design, architecture, planning, there have been saying, and I don't feel embarrassed when I say that my seniors and even many masters have said this in the past, that learning by doing. Please do not do it. Learning by doing has a heavy cost to the society. Please do not start practicing from day zero when you enter the profession, because many people are unable to realize that they are harming the society more by developing in a wrong way than they are actually doing good to the society. And waterfronts, riverfront, lakefront are the classic example for it. We are selling these kind of images as smart cities. Please don't do that, because I'm going to tell you what is coming behind that smart city, what is the impact of it. All the floods, all the droughts are the result of we selling development to the community, we selling development to the society. I'm not against development. There are ways to develop. There are ecological ways to develop also, and we have done it in the past. It's just that we have new professions like architecture, planning, and design where these things are not taught enough, or where these things are not hammered enough by the teachers to the students and vice versa. So people come from all kinds of background. They have to accept that we cannot go like this all the time. So it has become like, people for places rather than places for people. So now everything which we design is only for human beings. We forget that every water body is owned by co-species which are more in numbers than humans. And let us get a very simple example of it. Because when we do these kind of things, we do not realize, as I mentioned, it consumes most of the water in the building industry, whether you do infrastructure or built up. It is also the largest waste producer of the world. when I'm talking about built environment. So if we are building more and more, if we are not changing our lifestyle, if we want to keep buying everything every day, and thanks to all kinds of e-buying, that it is buying is becoming very easy. You know where it goes? Everything goes into the sea and ocean. First, it gets into the nala near your house, then it gets into the river, and from there, it gets into the sea and ocean. Everything that is discarded from the house, not recycled and reused, goes into the river. We are only recycling and reusing 8% of the waste we generate in the country. Ganga is the second largest polluter of the sea and ocean. Only one river, Ganga. And if we think that we have put in the dustbin our waste, we are doing enough, this is where we go wrong. Much of the waste, 40% of the waste comprises of built environment waste. Waste coming out of road, waste coming out of building, waste coming out of design accessories, waste coming out of all kinds of packaging, waste coming out of all kinds of things which are used in the buildings. We don't take responsibility of that, and not to my surprise, waste is also not taught in our professions. How to handle waste? There are hardly one or two waste recycler designers in my own city, Ahmedabad. So likewise, you can look at your own place as well. So I want to tell you all this because you need to know, and you need to really convince your institution to talk about water, to teach about water, to learn about water. Then you become a conscious designer, conscious planner, conscious architect. I take pride, and I tell in every public platform I go, I lecture nearly one lecture a week, minimum is my number. And I am proud that I have not done a single lake development in my life. I'm practicing for nearly 30 years. I feel proud that I have not done wrong what my contemporaries are and seniors are doing, and they are doing repeated mistake, which I call as crime. You know, why are we doing this? And I don't blame them. I blame the education. We are not teaching right. We are not conveying the right to the society, to the client and the community. And I give example of Sabarmati Riverfront, one of the, I think, leading critics of Sabarmati Riverfront, and that's me probably. Uh, these are two pictures which are given in the Ahmedabad airport, just to demean or demonize the natural river by showing it in black and white, because in those days probably there were no color pictures. But just imagine and look at that picture. There are villagers, there are cattle, all kinds of cattle. There is a natural ecology, which is a river which is dry, half, more than half is dry, because most of the rivers in this country are meant to be dry for natural rejuvenation in the next monsoon. And then we sell an image as a designer with a beautiful garden which has no head and tail. This is a design, by the way, and I don't feel embarrassed about it. And then we show a river to the community that you have a water body which is full for entire year, without telling the community, without telling the client, without telling the court, by the way, because there's a case going on this case. This riverfront, Sabarmati riverfront, is the most polluted river in the country, after spending 1400 crore rupees by the designers, by the government, by the client, by the community. And it has not managed to sell the land which it has grabbed from the river. So if we are doing this kind of design and we want to repeat the mistake, why I'm stressing this is, first time was a mistake. But if I hear on a public platform by the government, by the designers and consultants, that we are going to have 100 riverfront development in the country, and Sabarmati riverfront development is going to become the guideline, I really want to put up a siren or alarm to the country that please don't do it, because this is a crime. Because we have killed all the fishes of the river. We have killed the river on both sides of the river, because this is only 11 kilometers and the river is 371 kilometers. So we have grabbed the identity of 360 kilometers just by designing 11 kilometers of the 371 kilometers. And we are saying this is river, this is a lake. The person who actually sanctioned this project has declared 3 months ago that this is a lake, this is no more a river. So we killed the identity of the river itself by designing. And now we want to repeat it 100 times in the country. Why do we want to repeat the mistake? Because we are not educating enough. Because we do not educate about humility. We do not educate about environment. We do not educate about empathy to the nature. This is Sabarmati over the timeline. From its natural river, which is dry, and it was sold to the client and the community. Oh, your river is dry all the time. Not telling the ecology that a river in the arid region must dry, then it should get filled. Then the river is reclaimed on both the sides by reclaiming the identity, and the river is also facing the flood, by the way, on a regular basis. So, and it has not managed to recover the economy which it has put in. And these grass, which is part of a design, this beautiful design, excluding many of the people. Now, poor people cannot go to the river of this stretch, 11 kilometers. No animals can go there. The suicide rate has increased because the river has water all the year round and it is deep water body. So what did we achieve? We achieved some few people's ego satisfaction, and that includes politicians, designers, consultants, and rest of the people who live near Sabarmati. They talk about water epidemics. Mosquitoes have quadrupled in the city. Dengue capital is Ahmedabad. So I'm talking about linking water to water epidemics, linking water to well-being. It stings so badly that people living along the river are really concerned. But it looks good. So whenever a neta comes, we have the water full, they take a round, and all those things happen. Design is successful that way. What is not shown to the community and the clients, when we show, I'm showing two top pictures, which is from Baroda. And I did a lake walk with MS University students some years ago. We make beautiful designs and drawings on paper. What we do not show, I'm showing it on a drone image on the bottom, is this rape of the water body. Sorry to use this word, but that is the fact. This lake got reduced by one third. Many trees which were nearly 1,000 years old, 500 years old, were cut. Don't even talk about fishes. Don't even talk about birds, because they will anyway not come. And this is design. I really want people to be embarrassed about their design approach. But I don't feel that they are to be blamed, because we are not teaching them what is a good design about water bodies. We are not teaching about water. We are not telling that water has a memory. We are not telling our designer students, the teachers even don't know at many situations, that most of the water fish, aquatic life, like fishes, like frog, like turtles, they meet, procreate at the bank of the water body. So when we are concretizing the bank, we are of course unaware that we are killing the life of the water body. Because for us, water body has to be as clean as swimming pool, because we are taught to design swimming pool. Because water body has to be like a fountain, a swimming pool, or a small pool, which looks beautiful to the eyes. Whether I use it or not is secondary. We are taught it like that, and that's why we want to achieve that result, without realizing that our water is a shared resource between many species, of which human is one species. But unfortunately, the whole design pedagogy, the architecture pedagogy, planning pedagogy is for the people, by the people, of the people. We have almost forgotten that the planet is inhabited by other species, and we have to be designing for them. We have almost forgotten that, and we don't use it in practice because we are not taught about it. There are no planning, architecture, and design schools which talks about biodiversity in this country at this point in time. Not a 1 or 2 credit course on water. Whenever we are teaching water, we are teaching water to design these waterfronts, which are the top pictures. We don't even tell them that this is going to happen to achieve the design, because this is the job of the civil engineers, job of the mechanical engineers. This is not job of architect designers, and that's why it is not taught, the below image, because we make beautiful designs in the studios, and this whole breaking apart the water body is done by somebody else. So we don't even own the crime, the criminal activity we indulge in. We exclude all the biodiversity, the flora or the fauna trees are cut. And this is a picture of many years ago by RK Lakshman, by the way. Both the cartoons are from RK Lakshman. Every time we do this kind of heinous development, we end up compromising the biodiversity. But again, I am not against development. How much development we need? Ahmedabad has 25% vacancy rate. Still, we are making more buildings because we are producing 11 architecture colleges. So we are producing more architects. How much? People from US and Europe and Australia are investing buildings here which are empty, and still there are people who are sleeping on the streets. How much development we need? Ahmedabad has only 0.3% of water bodies, 0.3% of land mass of water bodies. We still want to develop them because we are not satisfied by developing 99.7% of water bodies, 99.7% of land mass in the city. How greedy can we be? And it reminds me of talking about Gandhi's quote: there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. And I give example of water statistics here. India receives only 4% of the world's rainfall, whereas we host 16% of the world population. Still, that 4% of rainfall is good enough for the 16% of world population if we are really managing and conserving our water better. If we are using basic common sense, you know, and this is an example of Ahmedabad again, to bring you the basic common sense here. This is Kankaria Lakefront, now Lakefront, but in the past it used to be Kankaria Lake, which was developed as a water tank to store fresh water for the people of Ahmedabad, which was built by Ahmad Shah many years ago, 600 years ago nearly. So this was a freshwater tank which was built in the middle of forest. A forest was created to build this water body so that people of then Ahmedabad could get fresh water without any treatment or anything. Okay. Now, when we see this water body 20 years ago, on the left, you see again two pictures are given by the designers and clients and consultants to the society, to the community. On the left, we show a picture of before. On the right, we show a picture of after, showing too many lights as if it is done very well. So doing lot of lighting and decorating like a bride and like a shadi and all kinds of tamasha, and it becomes a very good design. And it is a successful project because many people visit it. So somewhere, because we are not trained, we are not educated about empathy on water, we also do not transfer that empathy to the community. So community is also appreciating this design without knowing. The designers and the clients and consultants and government, without knowing that light is the worst thing for birds and fishes. Why do you need so much of light in the water body? Why do humans need to go to the water body in the light, in the night? Why can't they stay in their own house? We need to ask these questions to ourselves. Are we not satisfied with the house, our house itself? Why do we need to go to the water bodies? Because we do not know that flowers bloom in the night just before the dawn. Because we do not know that after the dusk, between the dawn, all the creatures, water creatures, mate and procreate. We want everything for ourselves. Now look at the black and white image which is at the center, which was done many years ago, 500 years ago. There was soil, there was bridge, and there was also construction by stone. Now what is done today is taken Kankaria Lake front development and Sabarmati river front development, both of Ahmedabad, which is a Gujarat model, has been taken further, and we want to replicate it into the entire country without realizing that Kankaria Lake was developed within a thick forest to create, or to, it was designed, of course, to make fresh water. And now we are just taking what we feel convenient for ourselves, what we can design, because we cannot design many of the times, although there's a beautiful book on design with nature which talks about that we can design nature. We are just designing concrete, brick, steel, and all kinds of things which take years to decompose and which produces lot of waste. So this is where we have gone wrong in our science, understanding science, and that brings me to the education of water. Our perception and preference about water body has been tamed, manipulated, manufactured by an industry which is design, architecture, planning. And unfortunately, we did not train ourselves, and we started training or teaching the entire society or the community or the client, which is government, something wrong. First of all, we did not learn for ourselves, and then we started teaching wrong things to the client and community. So this is where we need to really do course correction, not only in our own lives, but also in the education and the profession of water. It is not about conservation versus development, but it is about the approach. You can still do lakefront development, waterfront development, but with a conservation note. So there can be, why can't we teach people or our students or our teachers that wilderness is good? Why do we get afraid of biodiversity? Why do we get afraid of wilderness? Whenever we see a jhadi in Hindi, we think, oh, this is really dirty, this is not really developed, we need to develop it. We want to put nature into a social order the way we have put humans into the social order. We want everybody to dress like this, speak like this, walk like this, talk like this, and even progress like this, the way everybody wants to. बेटा बहुत पढ़ो लिखो और खूब बड़े इंसान बनना. That means earn more, have more घर, more गाड़ी, more bank balance. This is exactly the way we are treating our water bodies. Oh, you are not well behaved. There are a lot of wilderness. There are a lot of many kinds of shrubs and plants and grass cover and trees. We want to chop everything out, and we want to plant palm. We want to plant gulmohar. We want to plant peltophorum, ashoka, because they look good and they look in one line. This is what the damage design has done in terms of development. And we have to understand conservation means biodiversity, conservation means complexity, and we have to learn to appreciate complexity. We have to learn to appreciate wilderness, because nature lies there. Nature does not lie here. This is the Gujarat model I wanted to refer to, and I mentioned already that I am very proud that I am not party to any of these lake developments. And if you are a good student and if you feel for the planet, don't become party to these kind of developments in future. It's not about who the designer is, because I pity those designers who design these kind of things. So instead of doing, your generation, and I'm speaking about the younger generation than my generation, because my generation and my senior generation has done enough damage to the society. In your generation, if you do not do anything, or if you undo these things, you have a better employment, you have a better entrepreneurship. And if you don't choose to do these things, undoing and not doing, you will be pushed to do these things, because water crisis is knocking at our doors. It is there. Never forget, if corona was a waterborne disease, if flood reaches your house, maybe it is not reaching your house today. If you have to buy water for everything, just remember that. So please, please, please start teaching learning water at your school, because when you start talking about water, it is many, many things. As I post my title of the presentation today, it is water and human and humanity and biodiversity. Water off, water in, water for, water from, water by, water, and so on and so forth. You know, there are many, many fields where you have to work on and around water. And my limitation is that I can only do little bit on my understanding. You know, I have also a very small brain like all of you have. So I can do very little. But then if more and more people get aware, get a little bit more empathy toward water, we can touch upon many, many aspects. I'm just showing the areas where I'm trying to dwell into in my profession, which is more public speaking and talking and writing about water. But I really invite all of you to do your bit. Just do your bit and talk about how can water be taught. Can we teach everything in the built environment? If not, let us at least take responsibility of 40% of the water which we consume in the built environment industry, 40% of the waste which we produce from the built environment industry. Can we teach about water in that way? At least give that much weightage to water. If not, please start water as an elective in your schools and colleges. I have been begging to schools and colleges, to my friends who are teaching, that please teach water. At least let me teach it for free. I have designed courses from 1 day to 1 year courses, and I'm still waiting for people to invite me to teach. I do teach at many places, but not many architecture, planning, and design courses. And this is where I feel that we are doing something very wrong when we contribute in consuming 40% of the water and in producing 40% of the waste and wastewater to the planet. So what are the essentials which we should be teaching? I think some of us have to sit together and start talking about it. So we need more of, people who can talk about teaching water in a better way. So not that we should be going against water development, but what kind of water development is important. So I have started. I am running the longest water conversation with my beautiful team of 20 people who are coming from all kinds of fields, including design, architecture, engineering, IT, all kinds of fields. And we are running the water conversations, which is online every Monday, Friday, and Wednesday. So we are doing our bit, and I'm waiting for you to really take it in big way. Let us come together and talk about because we strongly believe as a team from W for W Foundation that conversations, which is today I'm doing with you all. Unfortunately, I am unable to interact with you, but I would like to interact with you. Probably our host can invite you. But water conversations are extremely crucial for water conservation. And this is the belief we have relayed as a foundation for our conversations. Over 200 talks have been recorded, and they are available as a free water education for everyone. So it's the longest water conversation. I'm also doing things on ground with people, and I invite all of you to do that. Cleaning up of the lake, taking students, taking community, and talking about it to the river, and talking about what is good, what is bad, what we should be doing. I run executive training courses on what we should not be doing, and that's very popular course, and we all must learn in education what we should not be doing, because our focus is on what we should be doing. Unfortunately, the doing is more about developing, and we have to change that together. So please come forward and let us do something together. Please write a lot about it. We are writing a lot. We want to write more with you. Please come forward and write about what you think, what is wrong, and what should not be done, or what is good. So there are very good case examples. We identified in my last 2 years of research nearly 72 young water enthusiasts who are conserving lakes in their own region across the country. So there are good examples also. So we have to bring those forward. So we are writing about them. We are trying to reach out to them, understand them. So we have a lake series also as a talk, but we also are documenting it as part of research as well. So I have started to understand water from where it was a ritualistic, a spiritual means and a utility for us to survive, from where we made it using water to our optimal when we started our development around independence. From there, we started taking the gadi of urbanization, or let's say vikas or development, when we started misusing water, and we have already been in a state of abusing water, and wastewater dumping on the water bodies is a classic example of abusing it. I'm trying to understand that. I really don't do much of the work nowadays because my head is full with looking at how people are doing wrong things repeatedly, and I'm just trying to understand how can we continuously doing wrong things. And I come back to it again and again, and I reflect upon it and think that, oh, we are not teaching the life and life cycle of waterscapes. We are not teaching empathy about water to each other, and we have to do that. So with this, I think I will take any questions you have with some blue mantras for you. So please remember, I am water. It is all one water in the planet, and it is wastewater, by the way. The water that flows in you also flows in me, also flows in the river and seas and the drains. And ironically, the water in the drain is also water in the brain. So always remember, as dirty as the drain is, as dirty is our mind, as dirty is our brain. Please remember this, and try to reduce your consumption of fresh water, either through buildings, lifestyle. You cannot stop drinking 3 or 4 liters of water. You need that. You are a house plant. You need that much of water. You can survive with only 10 liters of water. Government allows us 135 liters of water. Every middle class and upper class people consumes 4,000 to 6,000 liters of water every day. Can we reduce that? Because the amount of water we consume, we produce wastewater, and that is where the problem lies. Okay, so please change that habit and come forward, and I'm going to take your questions or suggestions if I have any. Thank you so much, and thanks for your patience. And sorry, I get a little bit emotional and I go overboard. Over to you, Nishal.
No problem, ma'am. Thank you so much. I would really like to point out that your talk was alertful to a good extent. I mean, I was not aware about the concerns regarding Sabarmati riverfront, despite staying in Ahmedabad. So thank you for pointing that out. We actually do have two questions from the audience. The first one is how can individuals and communities raise awareness about the importance of water conservation?
Oh, very good question. I think the question has to come from basic unlearning. First of all, what is taught in the school on waterfront development and water consumption has to go beyond that. So water is beyond H2O, you know. So, and the moment you start realizing that water is a shared resource between we humans and many, many other species, and I gave very simple example that
Mhm.
all the water creatures, especially animal creatures, they mate and procreate at the banks of the water body. So before you pour a concrete, please think about it. Okay,
Yeah.
because we kill their future generations, by creating a concrete edge. The more you make a water body deeper, the sunlight does not go in and the water life does not flourish. So first of all, we have to learn for ourselves to go and teach to the community. And that is where I also mentioned a line to you: please do not learn by doing. First learn and then do. The worst practice in architecture planning and design is that we think that we will learn while doing. I do not agree to it. I'm sorry to say this. So we have to start teaching and learning. There are good courses. We have to bring them to our profession. We have to have more executive trainings through all kinds of platforms like IIDA and other platforms. We can create those. We don't have to go through that 5-year course, but we can really have those brainstorming sessions. Unless and
Yes.
until we are learning, we are signaling or giving wrong education to the client and community. Remember, government hires you because they cannot do it. So the responsibility is on us to provide the right solution to the government and to the community. If the government
Right.
was knowing it, why would they hire us as consultant? No. So I think education is most important before practice, and learning by doing will be my takeaway for this question.
I completely agree, ma'am. And I really, really hope that through this session, at least, a question or a thought will provoke the audience and the listeners as to how this topic that was something that was not addressed as much before can actually be, a, a flame for doing something or a flame to
Sure.
read or
I
yeah.
hope
So
so.
I really hope it
I'm
does.
optimistic about it, Nishal, and that's why I'm screaming at every platform I get.
Yeah. We also have one last question. Can you provide an example of successful water conservation initiatives in our area or around the world?
Oh, there are many, many, many. If I have to say that, and thank you for asking that question. I did not present my own research. As I mentioned, we identified 72 youth across the country who have done wonderful water conservation efforts on lakes. Because my professional work is focused more on the lakes, and now I started reading Sabarmati because Sabarmati is declared lake, the waterfront,
Mm.
the one part. But so there are good examples. If you talk about rural areas, you can look at the work of Uthan, Samat, who have done wonderful water rejuvenation. In Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, MP, there is wonderful work done by Patrika. on rejuvenation of water bodies. So there are examples if you really want to look at conservation initiative. But if you look at the lake development model of Ahmedabad and entire Gujarat model I gave you from four cities of Gujarat, please, they are not good examples of water conservation. They are good examples to make money from development, because all these lakes are ticketed entry now. So how much can you trade off water is decided by us. So if I think this question, I can take it up also outside if you are interested, because that research is nearly compiled. We are presenting paper in a conference in November, so hopefully the scientific paper is also ready. But just look around for good example. A good example is one where designers have not reached, let me tell you very bluntly.
Yeah.
Because if we have to understand, if we cannot design with nature and we bring a design which is human centric or anthropocentric, there is a serious problem. If we cannot appreciate wilderness, झाड़ियाँ जिसको बोलते हैं, there is a serious problem. The lake near my house 2 kilometers from here has 3 layers of compound wall in 3 schemes which were run nationally, which is Thaltej Lake. I could not save it. I did everything possible. Wrote to CM, ran surveys, ran signature campaign, but I could not save those lakes being compounded. What has happened? Out of the 5 lakes, 2 lakes have died. They have been encroached upon. So, good and bad example both are required, but good examples are still more in numbers when you go to rural areas. When you go to peri-urban areas, they are a classic example. One of my student is saving, trying to really, he's really doing a lot to save his lake in Shilaj area, which is in Ahmedabad. So it's a peri-urban lake. And interestingly, the authority has cut more than 1,000 trees to build an Ayurvedic park. Can you imagine the stupidity of the designer as well as the local authority? And this is where I have problem. Ajmer last year, they cut the entire forest to make a fruit orchard and walk. What do we do on the walk? We go in the evening and just walk and appreciate the lake. Can we not walk in the wilderness? If you are afraid of forest, just stay home after it is dark. But please do not destroy the water bodies. Every water body is a conservation effort where designers have not reached, and that is period, and I'm not embarrassed about it.
No, I agree. Even I live near Thaltej Lake, and I know what you mean when you said about the compounded wall around the lake, and it's in a really bad condition. I agree.
Thank
It's
you.
something. It's
Thank
something
you, said
that
so, because it validates my point, because our host is also living near that.
yeah. So yeah, I completely agree what you mean, and it's very near to my place. It's at a walking distance. So it is something to be, it is considered as a good location that your house is near a lake. But considering the situation of Thaltej Lake, I would not say so.
It
So
stinks
I know
badly.
what you.
Turtles are on the
Yes.
roads in the monsoon. You have knee deep water, and turtles are roaming around on the roads, because poor turtles, where will they go?
And there's a lot of dump around that area as well. So
Dumping
it's
is a
really.
classic, and all are building dumps, by the way, building material dumps, because that's a classic way to encroach lake and reclaim it as a land. Please understand, a lake lost is a land gained, and all the builders, all the designers, all the developers, and government has been knowing this now very well. So they try to encroach all the water bodies, and Sabarmati riverfront is encroached by one third officially. The river is reduced. Anyway, it's a long story. I get
And
very emotional
yes,
and carried away on this topic, huh? So it's a wrong topic to invite me.
no, I hope that we have such more sessions in the future, where we can talk in depth about this topic. But for
So
now, I guess this this was a successful event in a way, because it actually sparked a concern that needed to be addressed, and it was also something that was a little different from our panel and speaker session today. So thank you so much, ma'am, for coming today and joining us. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you so
Good
much.
luck
And
to
I
you,
really
and
appreciate. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate IIDA to give me this platform because, as I mentioned, I'm looking for these opportunities to scream because this sound is not of Mansee. This is a water crying to the community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Shall I leave the room?